All right, cool. Welcome, Cosmic Lion Radio. We're back. I'm just chilling here in the Cosmic Lion Den. I'm playing this packed game right here, Mega Lion. It's like Mega Man, but it's like a lion. Pretty cool. Doo-doo-dee-doo, You got Snake Girl, Spin Devil, Ninja Dillo, Magnet Tiger. Let's play him. Magnet Tiger. Wee beep 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 beep. So I just wanted to kind of hop on here a little bit before everyone gets here for the Zoom cast and just talk to everyone because we're back. Look at Mega Lion right here. Oh, that's so cool. Oh yeah, remember you used those. Oh, of course I got hit. Pretty fun. You can use those to get across a thing later. And it killed me right there. But that's it, Mega Lion. Anyway, I just wanted to say what's up to everyone. Lots going on in the world of Cosmic Lion. Lots of publishing, lots of work on stuff. Spin the old spinner rack, of course. We're working on Wizard. We got the gold foil variant, which is just beautiful looking. And then we have the 3D version, which looks amazing. Made by the Triptych? No, not Triptych. The whatever it is was made by Ben Granoff, and obviously the original artwork was by David Browers, the myth, the man, the legend. So we're gearing up for the awesome day we're about to have with Jamie Jones and Nick Cagnetti, creators of the Baboon and Pink Lemonade, respectively, and their new crossover book, Pink Lemonade, the Baboon Pink Lemonade Jamboree. It's going to be so great. I'm super psyched to talk to them, but I want to get on here and just chat it up a little bit, show you some of the cool games I got here on the Raspberry Pi. Let's go back. Let's check out another game, perhaps. Oh, this one. Stoner Brass. One Stoner Mellow or one Stoner Blaze? One Stoner Blaze. Oh, we got the blunts going on. It's pretty funny. Mario's got a little, smoking a little Jaybird there. All right, welcome back, Cosmic Lion Radio. We're here. We're all here. Welcome, everyone, to Cosmic Lion Radio, the Jamboree edition, featuring Nick Cagnetti and Jamie Jones, creators of Pink Lemonade and the Baboon Jamboree. The Jamboree featuring the Baboon and Pink Lemonade. It's going to be it's a Kickstarter that's happening right now. Everyone should be following it, should be backing it. Throw your money at it. Fry GIF here. Take my money, please. So welcome everyone here. We're going to go to gallery view. We've got some people with us. We've got the Rick Lopez, creative master and creative genius. We've got Ben Granoff, artist of the amazing new comic Oh Fuck Why, and co-host of The Devil in Detail, the Grendel Reread podcast. So what's up, guys? How's everyone doing?
Doing well. Living, doing this Kickstarter.
Nice.
Pretty much. Just sitting inside a lot and just drawing and doing all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a mixed blessing here for the creative person because you've got all this time to create now. Yeah. And it's like...
I liked having the option to go places before. I usually wouldn't, but that's just the kind of the thing that's like getting at me in my head.
I know, man. I thought I was like doing fine with it, but then every now and then I'm just kind of like, I just wish that we could go somewhere.
Yeah, I want to go to a coffee shop. Like this week has been the worst. I'm just like, oh man, I want to go to a coffee shop and work. I'm working a lot. I'm doing a lot of illustration work right now, and it's just like drawing stuff and penciling stuff on my computer so I can send it, and if I have to take notes, I can adjust it before I go into the inking stage. But it's hard at home doing that. So I'm like just watching episodes of Always Sunny in Philadelphia and trying to hear noise.
A lot of binging going on, a lot of shows to watch and stuff. But I mean, we might as well start with you two, with Jamie and Nick, because I'm interested in team ups, and that's what we're talking about. I've got this t-shirt for the occasion. Ben knows I love to theme my t-shirts.
I should have worn my pink bow tie. Oh man, missed opportunity.
Let's cut here and you can
thinking.
So like how did you guys team up? how did you guys first meet, and how did you guys become aware of each other's comics, and then be like, we should pit these two together?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Nick, but
Please don't. Yeah, please don't.
I had known of Nick and Nick's work for a few years before Pink Lemonade hit. I don't know. Like, I bought the Infinite Wonders comic. I had downloaded what was the Shadow?
Yeah, Spirit of the Shadows.
That's still on my computer somewhere, the PDF. So like I had known of Nick's stuff, and I was excited when Pink Lemonade was coming out. I had read the oh. All right, we're gonna do something. While Nick is talking, I'm gonna put my pink bow tie on. My lovely girlfriend and assistant has brought in the pink bow tie. So I had known
that's perfect.
Nick's work and was really digging it. And then he was going to Heroes Con last year, and Pink Lemonade was launching, and I was also launching the Baboon at the same convention, and I was super excited to meet him and to grab a copy. And so that's how we met. We met, and then they have a big after party at the Dead Dog party at Heroes at the shop after the convention, and Nick and I were hanging out and talking about stuff, and
nice.
That was our meeting.
Yo, shout out to Kasey, who just showed up. Kasey, what's up, man? Printer of the Wizard t-shirts and Vermonter.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up, dude?
I remember Jamie and I were following each other for a few years. That sounds about right. I remember him buying those copies of Infinite Wonders and everything, and giving him a little sketch and all that. And then
Nice.
I remember at the Heroes Con at the after party, I'd never really gone to anything like that before, with just like a bunch of like who's who of creators just walking around like it's nothing. And like I was just kind of awkwardly standing there inside the store for a little bit. So it was, I'm very grateful that Jamie came over and talked to me a little bit, and he gave me a copy of the Baboon right there, and it was really cool. And that was a good memory at the after party for sure.
Was that where the idea to team up your characters started, or did that happen recently? Or
that happened, I think, just at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I hit up Nick. I was reading a bunch of Savage Dragon. I got like the first 2 archives, and I was just blowing through them, and I was like, why don't we do this anymore? This is so much fun. Crossover comics and kind of a shared universe thing. And I fell in love with it, and I was just like, I want to do this. And I hit up Nick. Was the first guy I hit up, because I was like, all right, I know a few cartoonists that kind of fit in the wholesome comics realm, and I hit up Nick, and Nick was like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. And I was like, oh,
awesome.
great. It was like 30 minutes after I initially texted him. I just messaged him on Instagram, and 30 minutes later he was like, yes, that sounds good. And I was like,
let's do it.
All right, we're good.
And so we were talking a little bit, like, these were some of the influences for you guys: Madman and Superman Hullabaloo, and the Nexus Madman and Nexus and the Jam team ups. Now, was there any other ones that you really liked? What are the more recent team ups? Like, where does it happen? You said Savage Dragon, the Turtles was a big one.
Yeah. There's a Goon Hellboy crossover that I love a lot. I'm a big Goon guy.
Yeah, you are a Goon, dude. Just kidding. Jeez.
So I'm also a big Spirit fan, and there's the Spirit Batman crossover. That's Darwin Cook did.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's great. And that's Darwin Cook's Spirit comics is one of my favorite comics just in general. And
any Darwin Cook, man. Oh, beautiful, man. I haven't read that.
Ooh. It's some of the best comic books that came out I don't know when. I can't remember. But the hardcovers are real nice too. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of like isn't there there's like a Hellboy, Deadman, and Batman or something? There's a team up like that.
So
Um,
there was even a time in an issue of Madman where it wasn't even like really advertised as a crossover, but Hellboy just pops in for a few pages and beats up
Yes.
somebody and gives him a lollipop or something.
There's the problem is and why I was so interested with like Savage Dragon was these are creator-owned characters. So where the luster of Batman and Superman teaming up there is none, right? Batman and Superman team up all the time.
yeah, it's so common.
But the idea of kind of having this shared creator-owned universe that isn't really a shared universe, but the characters cross over all the time.
It's kind of like they live in the same world, because some of the times with these crossovers, you have to generate this whole, time space barrier break, or you have to figure out whose world they're going into, what world. I guess that makes me think about the Ninja Turtles Batman crossovers that have happened, which are some of the most creative. Yeah, some of the most creative stuff, because like they'll like change the universe. The newest one, they had it. What if Bruce Wayne was raised in the sewer with the Turtles as a brother, and that was like, and it all happened. And so, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and then just like, go Jerome.
No, I'm saying is that Batman Turtles 3?
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, but then it like breaks down, because like this Prime Turtle shows up, which is like a black and white drawn by Kevin Eastman in the like, what is it, Freddie Williams art?
Yeah,
5 fingers with nunchucks on his arms.
No, not that original. Yeah.
But
go ahead, Jamie. The Savage Dragon, and like they just kind of like live in the same world. They're just like
right. Well, like the Turtles live in New York and Savage Dragon lives in Chicago. Right. They just team up and they go back to their own cities.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing. Or like Badrock coming in and challenging Dragon. It's issue 2. It's issue 2 of Savage Dragon. It's just like, we have another character from our
shared
universe. From our shared universe.
So is that what? So does the Baboon and Pink Lemonade live in the same universe? Or can we get into any of these secrets of the book?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Nick thinks about stuff, because we haven't really talked that much about that particular thing. But they go. It takes place at a comic convention.
Oh, nice.
And so the Baboon and Pink Lemonade meet up at a comic convention.
Seems like a perfectly natural place for 2 costume people to run into each other. But I think it's kind of like it kind of felt like a natural fit for me. Just like knowing what Jamie does and knowing the Baboon character and the tone of that book, it just felt like a good fit. Like tonally, at least, you can imagine them both on the same page, sharing the same space in a pretty believable way. I think that should hold up pretty well in that regard.
It doesn't seem to. It wasn't hard to do. Yeah. I think it was very easy, and even the villain, Dr. Deluminex. I was having such a hard time. I was like, I don't know what this character is. And I tend to, when I design characters, skew very, very old school kind of action adventure type guys. And I hit up Nick. And this is another one of those things. Nick has this genius mindset of character design. I don't know how much he was thinking about this, but I was like, hey, I think we need a character. Do you want to design the villain? And he sent me back. It was literally 30 minutes. He was like, yeah, I think I can do something. 30 minutes later, I get a text back, and Dr. Deluminex was sent to my phone. And I was like, oh, nope, that's it. 100%. We'll write
that's a great
story
design.
around. It was stupid good, stupid fast. And I was like, all right, great. Can't wait to draw this guy.
Word. Well, so Okay, let's break it up here a little bit, talking about the new book, and let's go to our first fan question from Rick Lopez, if he's there. What up, Rick? I know you got a question.
Hey guys, how's it going? So basically it's for both of you, but a lot of people usually ask like how you kind of fit time to make art into your schedule, you know? But I'm really sort of asking how do you like, cuz for me personally, me and David Browers were talking about this yesterday actually. I don't know if he's on here, or me and Eli as well. But I was talking about this art guilt, and it's I don't watch a lot of TV or a lot of movies. I put a lot of time into my art instead, you know. I kind of put off those sort of things, you know. I'm wondering if you two, because you were talking about it earlier, Jamie, like with your calendar. So I'm wondering if you two have like set schedules on how you parse out your time, or how you kind of schedule out your day with your art sort of thing, you know?
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Nick? I guess.
Sure. That's a good question. Because sometimes, you know, you can get into that bad schedule or place where you don't really, you know, you're not getting sleep at any good times, or you're just like burning yourself out. So I think it's good to know your limits, or come to, you know, going through that stuff to figure out your limits. But I tend to be pretty much just working throughout the day. Like, I don't I take like a break like for an hour or two to like do some light exercising around the house lately, just because can't really go anywhere else. But and I don't really watch much either. Just sort of put stuff on in the background for some noise, so I don't go crazy or anything. But I try to spend a few days at least working on projects that, you know, that people are waiting on, and that I've got going, and then spend a few other days working on like the indie comic stuff, just to make sure that I'm getting some stuff done on both fronts in a pretty even manner, I think. It's, I mean, just as far as hours in a day go, you don't want to tire yourself out too much. So you just gotta find what works for you, I guess. I don't know. I probably don't sleep enough. I sleep like 6 hours a night maybe, but
Yeah.
some people probably need a little bit more than that. I don't know.
I sleep a lot. I try to, at least. It's not always great, but I tend to, the way I do this, I start my day for me. So I'll make a cup of coffee, I'll read some comics, I'll play some video games in the morning, and I've been waking up recently. I've been waking up like 7:30 just to get my day going, and I'll be drawing by 9. And I try to keep a pretty consistent 9 to 5 schedule, but also keep it pretty regimented in. I'll end up working on 3 comics at a time. I'm never not working on multiple things at a time.
Right.
And sometimes it will be just like the beginning of my day, I'm working on this for 4 hours or 3 hours, and then the next 3 hours is this. What it really ends up coming down to is when I send an email to a client and I'm not getting a response quick enough, I'll switch and go to the other thing, which isn't the best way to work, because you want to stay in that. You build a creative flow, and you build a flow going forward, and it's hard to keep the flow going if you bounce back and forth.
Momentum.
Yeah. So sometimes it's hard to continue and to make more.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Our feed had been invaded by a stalker, by a hacker, by a big fat man, and it was terrible. Excuse my language. I'm not trying to. Luckily, I had Jamie's video pinned for the entire time, so like,
oh, thank God,
it wasn't recorded or anything.
I don't have to. Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, guys, hackers are real. I will be having a password on the thing.
From now.
Yeah, this says it's from you too, Jamie. It's like in the chat, masturbation flow is very important to guys.
Great.
It's confusing when you were talking, that popped up at the same time. I'm like, huh?
All right.
Jesus.
Cool,
Okay.
Cool.
Wow. All right.
Talk about momentum killer.
Let's regroup.
Yeah, right. Talking about a momentum killer.
All right. So, Jamie, you were talking about your day. You were talking about your
my routine.
Yeah.
I tend to take the mornings, take them for myself, and then get going on drawing and or writing. I feel like that's the big thing for me now is I'm currently writing the second Baboon book.
Nice.
So it's taking drawing and then writing or in the evening or sometimes in the morning. I tend to alternate what I end up doing. Try to let the flow hit whatever hits my fancy in the moment. I'll end up working on. Right now I'm working on a lot. That looks good, Kasey. Right now I'm working on a lot of illustration stuff. I'm working with a brewery in
nice.
Tampa, and I'm designing all of their beer cans. So
Well, it's tough, dude.
Super exciting.
Not Cigar City or something, but like a microbrew place.
It's no, they don't watch anything. I'm doing it's for 81 Bay Brewery in
Nice.
they're right off Gandy. You would know where that is.
Yeah, by Icy Sharks Market.
Right next to, so there's that Applebee's right off Gandy and Dale Mabry.
Yeah,
they're in that strip mall area.
Interesting.
It's their beer's good, and I'm currently working on all of their beer cans. So
that's so awesome. That's a dream
yeah.
job.
Is that part of that? Is that part of like the one can you did pretty recently? Like the
Yeah. Here, the Big Gulps.
Yeah.
Oh.
That thing's great.
This was their limited edition IPA that they put out not too long ago, and it like got me the rest of their main beer line.
That's
that
so awesome,
can
dude.
got me that gig. So
yeah, it looks dope, man.
You get free beer with that?
Yeah.
Damn right. Yeah,
Oh,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Dream cartoonist job.
Yeah, it's a pretty good little gig. So like that's what I'm working on art wise now, and then I'll take a break and I'll write stuff. I just finished up a strip. Nick did too. I finished up a strip for the Monkeys Fighting Robots magazine that that website is putting out, and that was took me the longest to do. I learned a whole new coloring technique for it, and it's super crazy, but
awesome, man.
Yeah, it's just like bouncing back and forth trying to figure stuff out. Sometimes it takes longer to do stuff because of it, but you know.
So how did you guys handle Oh, sorry. How did you guys handle the creative work with the book together? Like were you guys both drawing? Oh, sorry. Rick, thanks so much for your question, dude. I'm sorry you were interrupted by that.
No, it's totally good, dude. Thank you guys. I got what I was after. Thank you again.
Okay, cool.
Okay, good. Yeah. How did you split up the artistic and writing duties on the new book? Did one person do the art? Did you ink? How did you split that up? Exactly, Nick.
We wrote it together. That was something I really wanted to make sure was right. I didn't want to write Pink Lemonade's dialogue. I felt like, Nick has such a very specific voice for the character that I was like, I don't want to step on it. But we had a Google Doc that we would type out ideas in.
Nice.
And then I would go and thumbnail out pages and send them to Nick. And that was pretty much how that worked.
So was it kind of like back and forth or something? Or was it just like, oh, this page is kind of more in the Pink Lemonade universe, so Nick will do it? Or it's like...
Well, I penciled and inked the whole thing.
Oh, word.
and then Nick colored it.
Oh, nice. His color palette is so distinct. So
Yeah, it's a really, like, it works really. Like the melding of the coloring is stellar.
For sure. Like, cause I felt like, usually when I'm, writing and drawing and coloring my own books, like coloring is just like sort of like I'm at that last point where I've already put in like all that time into all the other aspects of producing it. And for this, I felt like I had a lot more just like time to just sit there and think about like the colors on this, and I had a lot of room to play with that stuff on the page too. And I got to like do things that I haven't tried before, like on my own Pink Lemonade solo books and everything like that. So it was really fun for me in that regard. It was fun, sort of like trying to match up the palettes for that Jamie uses on his Baboon book, and then try and mix that with the stuff I'm doing on Pink Lemonade, sort of bring that together and try and make that make that cohesion stick pretty well.
Awesome. I haven't read as much Pink Lemonade as I have read the Baboon, but what I did read was on your website there. How did the two books, like narrative styles, how did they kind of flow together? Because I guess just from my ancillary view, I saw the Baboon as more of like kind of like an action comic, and Pink Lemonade is kind of more cerebral and like interior. From what I read, did you find it easy to kind of mix the styles and bring them together, or?
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't have. To me, it was just like Pink Lemonade is another character. The Baboon has become more and more, I guess, so much more of a character-driven book for me, just in the way I think about it.
Okay.
So it is less and less. I mean, I say less and less action adventure-y. It's more and more action adventure-y, but I put a lot of character. And what I think Pink Lemonade does really well is it's all about that character. And basically also the Baboon has his sidekick, Jamie, right? So we have this character who's able to bring us into the match Pink Lemonade for their excitement for for adventure and for.
That's a good way of putting it, because Pink Lemonade, yeah, she like somebody like the Baboon is somebody that she could like look up to and aspire to be, because she's kind of like somebody who aspires for adventure and having going all over the places and helping people like that. So like this is sort of her first taste with like meeting up with the Baboon and Monkey Bones, just sort of like her first foray into like actual superheroics, where before she just started getting pulled around, and the circumstances are less than pure for, she gets roped around by people with ulterior motives usually. So it's sort of nice to have somebody who's just there being a pal,
Word. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm super excited to read the book. You guys said it's almost like it's done. It's all fully produced. You're just getting it.
Working on little things here and there. The end pages are who's pages, like the old DC Who's Who.
Oh yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun to make and recreate those. Also using that retro coloring style, so it looks good. So it's like a lot of that stuff. It's a 22-page comic. There's 24 pages in the book. There might be a new stretch goal in the future where we have some pinups from other artists. Still thinking about thinking of the logistics of printing a book with more pages to a lot of people and all of that stuff. So but we've got people who have agreed. I've had people say, "Hey, I'd love to do a pinup in the book." So I can only imagine Nick has also got
Nice.
people that have also asked him. So yeah, it's super cool. Like I'm amazed that it has gone as big as it has, as quickly as it has.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great book, man. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh no, I'm just agreeing with Jamie because like I was haven't done any Kickstarters in a while. I mean, or funding in a while, like for this stuff. So it was pretty overwhelming to see that response right out of the gate. But I think especially right now, it's a good thing to do because we were originally going to be bringing this book out for Heroes Con this year, and since everything's been canceled for foreseeable future, we thought that this would be a good way to sort of drum up that excitement and keep it going for a little while and see people would be into it. And I think like crowdfunding right now is a good avenue for people making comics because there's not much else going on right now. So good.
Totally. All right, we got one more, or we got another audience question here from Kasey. He's gonna come on. I'm gonna unmute you, man. And what's your question, dude?
Oh, hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
I'm just busy making some pizzas here,
Oh, nice.
but so anyway, I make comics mostly on the side, just for myself. Put them into like zines here and there, and anthologies and things like that. But I also work a normal job full time. I guess my question is did you guys ever have a regular 9-to-5 type style job, and how and when did you leave it, or when did you feel comfortable leaving your job to do more like maybe design work or comic-y type stuff more full time? That's it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Enjoy the pizzas. Those look good. I'm hungry now.
Well, me personally, I was in college making comic books on the side out of classes and everything, and that was taking up pretty much all my free time. And then after graduating college a few years ago, I was pretty much just applying for any art jobs I could locally or anything really. And it was sort of a big crapshoot because it was so hard to find any work, and I was sort of like becoming discouraged with the whole prospect because they tell you in school when you're like getting out there leaving, it's like 5% of the people graduating are able to find like careers in the arts and everything. So like after a year or two, I'm like still searching for jobs, going on interviews, and all the stuff isn't really that great. And I got to the point where I was sort of like at the last ditch effort for saying like, okay, I gotta put my all into this and make something that takes everything that I think I learned over the past few years of doing this stuff. So that was one of my intentions with making that first full Pink Lemonade book, was just taking everything that I thought I knew and putting it into a succinct 24-page book that showcased like all that stuff. And since doing that, I've been able to be pretty much doing the art stuff full time, and just by taking on random commissions for clients. And I'm doing stuff for like women's brand in Australia for like their podcasts and things like that, and Italian consultation firms. Weird stuff, but it's nice because they let me do what I do, sort of. and I wouldn't have been able to really do that in like the things that I was, going to before, like applying at and interviewing at in the last few years right out of college. So it's it's uh it's an interesting journey for sure.
Yeah, when I lived in Vero Beach, which is where I went to community college, and then I came over to Tampa to wrap up my degree. I started acting. I had been acting. I say I started acting. I was acting in plays since 6th grade. So I was doing acting and all this stuff, and community college plays. And then Tampa has a really good, not even community theater, professional regional theater scene. And I got into that, and I was a professional actor and set painter for years. And I would do comics kind of on the side, and I was doing sample pages and submission pages for Marvel and DC and all of that stuff. And then I hooked up with a local comic shop that is now defunct, and I basically became their in-house artist. I was there every Wednesday and Friday. I had office hours. People could come in and get commissions, and so that was how I was making money. I was drawing for people, and I was acting, and that was what was paying my bills. So my day job didn't start until 7:30 at night, right, when we would start rehearsals. And a regional theater, if it does well and you get an extension, the money becomes a lot better than what you're just initially paid. So my day job was acting for 7 years. This is the first year that I've actually taken off, or I guess last year was the first year that I'd taken off from doing any. I can't even say that. I did a show at the beginning of the year that almost killed me because I was doing a monthly comic. I was doing Quarter Killer and acting at the same time. That was the worst. Never again will that happen. But
two jobs that both have crazy hours that you.
And not only crazy, just the creative output. I was dead inside. I was. This was last October, around last October, and I think I was starting issue 2 of a comic book when I got cast in that show, and it was rough, but you make it happen.
Yeah.
Acting becomes really, really good when you don't care about being there at all.
I bet.
So like the reviews get a lot better when it looks like your character's kind of just apathetic, apparently.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for that. Does anyone else have a question out there?
Well, yeah. Well, I think that was kind of cool. I didn't know that you were an actor too, but it does make sense. When I flip through Baboon and shit like that, it's so gestural and so grand. Like even on the faces, like the faces, they're done really well. It's like, okay, it's almost like stage acting and all that stuff. But it makes so much sense when you say that. But knowing that was like your world first, when it comes to getting all like the little side gigs in between, did you use kind of like that audience that you had, that base, that fan base, I guess, that you had from acting? Did you use it in your comics? Did you try to like distribute through them, or did you just go completely like the other side?
There is a small little bit of overlap. I mean, a lot of people in the theater industry like comics and they want to read some comics, and so in a sense, yes. Also, it's really great when for the Baboon book I did t-shirts, and I had friends going to open mic nights just with the Baboon on a t-shirt, and people would be like, who's this guy? What is this t-shirt? And they would do 5 minutes talking about, oh, my friend draws this comic book. He's local in town. So kind of a little bit of like guerrilla marketing at that stage. But no, I mean, a lot of it is fans of the comic book in the comic book world in Tampa really showed up for my stuff. But the theater industry, I almost kept them too separate for it to be. I mean, people buy my book, and I put it in the playbill. Like, nice. I'm a cartoonist. Please go buy my book. Here's the address where you can buy it.
Oh, good. It's unapologetic. Like,
and whenever I would do an interview with like a radio program here, I'd be like, and I draw comics. Let me talk to you about what I do as my day job. But going back to the acting in like gestural work for the Baboon and just my stuff in general, I'm a big Eisner guy.
Yeah, clearly.
I think it's I wear it on my sleeve.
Like just the fold, like this,
right.
This. You can draw this with nothing.
Once I used to do this book, which I need to get back into. I did this anthology comic called The Whisper, and the idea was it's a superhero character that it's a legacy comic anthology. So every issue or every short story, a different writer would write it, and I try to draw in a different style, so I can kind of show.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was like a fun exercise too.
Yeah, and it was me learning about how to make stuff look a certain way. This is me starting off and making stuff, but I brought it to Brian Stelfreeze one Heroes Con, and he looked at it and he was like, this is really good. I would think it was a different artist, but you draw clothes like Will Eisner and you can't not do it. He's like, so even in this gritty style, it still has the Will Eisner folds in the line work. And I was like, yeah, 100% you called it. But Eisner his dad painted sets during the Depression. And when I found that out, it made so much sense. Like, oh, a lamppost signals that's a street. You don't need to draw the full building behind it. So I really put and pushed that element to into my stuff.
Like, that's one thing that I noticed is there's so much movement and life in the way that you draw that I forget that there's only a lamppost in the back. Like I can't draw bricks. I hate drawing backgrounds. I hate drawing trees, but I have to draw what kind of shortcuts, whether it's in in composition or whatnot, where you can kind of hide that. Like I noticed that you use it's like a strong background color, and I just see him jumping on a bad guy, and that's what I want to see.
Right. Yeah, there's it's distilling. I mean, the 90s guys figured that out too. I just think what I do is a little more readable.
Yeah, like with the 90s guys, like it stuck out. It was like way too blank. Like You found this really nice balance of how to show the foreground without.
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It is the placement of always having midground, foreground, background. That's how I cheat. This is something. So
unpack that. Say that again.
It's the idea of always having foreground, midground, background. So this would be a pain to draw, right? This bookshelf behind me. But if I put a book in front of it and I'm holding a book up here, or there's a glass right here, right? I don't have to draw half of that bookshelf.
You're a genius.
And here, and I will expand some of my knowledge. So we the Cartoonist Kayfabe group, as a general and as a general comic book person, we make fun of Bart Sears a lot. Just in general, Bart Sears taught me everything I know about comic book making. Literally, he lives in Tampa, and we would hang out, and he would teach me how to draw comics. But that was the main thing. He was like, "Hey Jamie, you want me to teach you how to draw a double page spread?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he was like, "You take a double page spread, you put a big face on the first page, and that guy's in the extreme foreground, and then you start drawing a couple of guys here." He's like, "So you've made this double page spread. Now you've drawn one page. You've drawn 3 figures in 1 page. So now the next one is just like, here's 3 more figures, and then in the background it's just kind of guys that are fading off in the background." He's like, "But it looks freaking cool, and nobody's gonna read it and be like, oh, he drew 7 figures and there's this whole fight scene." Yeah, but it reads, right? It's all about the readability and kind of how. So he just like put that into words for me in a way that was. And then if you really want to cheat even more,
yes, I do.
The foreground figure is a silhouette. And then the background figures are the reverse silhouettes. So all you're drawing is the 4 figures in the midground.
Someone creeping,
so
bad
like,
guy creeping is there. Shadow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a super, like, it cheats. It's such a cheat, right?
Oh, that's an awesome cheat.
But at the same time, I was taught and trained how to draw comic books in that monthly Marvel, that was my mindset. I have to draw the guy who I first talked to, the comic shop that I went to back home. His first thing that he ever said to me was, "Oh, you want to draw comic books? You need to be able to draw 4 pages a day." That's what Jack Kirby drew. And I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." And he was like, "But you're not Jack Kirby, so shoot for 3." So I learned how to draw 3 pages a day before I learned how to draw. Wow. So it was just like the discipline of learning how to draw that. And then I started getting taught how to draw comic books from Bart, and he was almost re-emphasizing like tips and tricks on how to do. Bart got burned out late in his run at DC because he was drawing 3 books at a time. He was the guy who would draw a book, and then another artist was late, so they'd go to Bart and be like, "Hey, can you make this book be on time?" So he would have like constant fill-in issues. That's why Bart Sears is everywhere in the 90s in DC. And then he just got burnt out. But he was drawing 3 pages or 3 books a month, right? Every month. But he did it because he was like, the foreground figure is a silhouette, and then yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, man. That has, I think I'm more productive just now after that sentence.
Yeah, right. Little things that pop on. I'm now looking at the Baboon. It's like, oh yeah, I use a lot of smoke.
Yeah, but it's like when you even have that, it's because the difference I think between like the '90s guys and your stuff is like they were all posy, right? They just they stood there in a pose, and then so you can see, oh, it's the background. Like the Baboon's always like here, up, down, and you're looking about where he's going rather than, like what's not in the background, right? There's so much movement in what's there.
There's that thing
that I need to trace more.
Yeah, there's that thing that people talk about with Jack Kirby's comics where it's like we're looking at the progression of time through a panel, and so characters are constantly in motion, which is the best thing about a Kirby comic, right? Like that's the thing.
Yep.
What about you, Nick? Where did your artistic style and prowess begin, and
Do you have any tricks from your youth or from learning that could help a up and coming artist? Or
Yeah, I think early on, like some of the earliest art that grabbed me was Steve Ditko. Any of his stuff on Spider-Man. That was some of my the earliest comics I was exposed to in reprints. And his storytelling is really good too. I mean, just in terms of he was a clear storyteller in certain terms of he had that economy on the page as well, where there wasn't anything like super. It's what you need, the essential information right there on the page, and Spider-Man always moved like super weird and crazy all over, and it was great motion on there, and I love that. And I think that was a big inspiration to me just as a kid trying to start drawing. But from there, like the comic books that I think really changed my perspective for the first time was it's no secret that I'm a big fan of Mike Allred's work on Madman, and the first time I read Madman was like a mind-blowing revelation to me, seeing like, oh man, comics can be like this. And that was a game changer, because that sort of refined a lot of these things, and has it was really good. But I think from there I started trying to make my own books for the first time, and it was really bad. I was in college, and I was doing stuff with my friends. That was how we first started doing the Infinite Wonders book. And my goal basically starting out then was just seeing if I could do it, because I hadn't really tried anything like that before. And I'm like, if I want to make comics, I got to make a comic. And at first, I'm just like doing backgrounds that are barely backgrounds, and not just like sort of doing like gestural lines that don't really meet up or do anything. And but I think what helped me earlier on was just sort of getting like grounding from like taking reference photos of myself all the time and building up my ability to draw the human body and make it look natural and everything. I think that helped sort of carry me to the next stage of just being like, okay, I got people that start to look pretty good. I got to see now if I can sort of make them look like they're inhabiting real space, sort of like the stuff that I really like about Allred's work, is that it just sort of feels like you're transported into another place, that you want to go to Snap City where Frank Einstein's hanging out at. I love that. So like that was like my next big goal with trying to do the later issues of that series, was making it all feel like it was inhabiting real space. And I think that sort of carried into my other stuff with the Spirit of the Shadows, because that book was just me like at 19 just sort of going super experimental with layouts on the page and everything, because I wasn't like super confident in my drawing abilities. So I was just trying to like cover up any deficiencies with just crazy layouts and like smoke guiding you throughout the whole panels and everything. And that I think that helped a lot too, because it was a real fun exercise in trying to make sure everything looked different on every page. Nothing got stale when you're flipping through it. And I think by the time I got to the Pink Lemonade stuff, I was really at the point where I'm like, okay, I got this stuff down, I think. And now I've done like crazy layouts and stuff all these years before. I gotta just see if I can make a book that just is as straightforward and not like any of the fluff, and just make it look good, make it read really clearly. And I think that's like one of my big things now, just in general, is just making sure it's what it needs to be right there on the page, all the essentials. And then occasionally I like to go super crazy with the details and go like all out for crazy action things and everything like that. Yeah, that's sort of my approach, and my sort of like mental journey through like figuring out these books over the last like 5-6 years or so, I guess.
Nice. Thanks, dude.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
All right, so we got our next question here from Ryan Cheshire. What's up, dude? How you doing? I see you got some pink lemonade in hand there.
Yeah. So I picked up this one from, the variant, Jim Rugg variant, right? And this is my question is about this guy here. Now, this just showed up at my local comic shop, and I don't know how he got it because he didn't order it. I think just somebody just sent it there. So did you all like send these out, or did somebody like just send them out to a bunch of random shops, or what?
I have no idea. That's what state? What state is that?
Missouri. I thought maybe I had like reordered it or something, because I'll do that. I'll just get on the Diamond site there and order stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did I order that? He's like, no, it just showed up. And I'm like, seriously? Because I was sure I ordered it. But
that's really weird. But I guess it's a good thing seeing some random pink lemonade just showing up at some
in the wild, right? Yeah. So I thought maybe you all had like some initiative where you like, kind of push some of these out to some shops or something to get the word out.
I haven't heard if the publisher is doing anything like that. It's possible. I could ask.
Anyway, it landed in my. It's mine now. So.
That's good. I'm happy.
How'd you land on a publisher, Nick, for Pink Lemonade?
Well, I was sort of just like wrapping up my work on that first issue, and I was planning on shopping it around to some places. And as I was doing that, I got approached by It's Alive after finishing up that first issue, and just sort of went from there. It felt like a good time to do it, and I'm happy because it sort of got the book to a wider audience compared to what I was doing before, because everything was just sort of, just me on my own on online shops and everything before that.
Nice.
And just rarely more than like 100 or 50 copies before then. So, going straight to Diamond for the first time was it was interesting for sure, especially just sort of getting a taste of that before everything is just like sort of on pause.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Well, I guess it's been about an hour. Does anyone else have any other questions, or then we can maybe head on out of here into the great wild world of comic book creating. We can all make more comics, if I may create a new slogan that I just thought of.
Never heard that one.
Just kidding. Anyone else have a question?
Oh, is that something? I don't want to keep you guys too
Zoro
long.
ask a question?
Jamie,
Mitchell?
Sorry.
Oh, Ben, yeah.
Hey, it's Mitchell. Hey, what's up, Mitchell? Jamie, I can't, I just want to ask you can you just like rant about Will Eisner for a few moments? Just because like, you've obviously done your due diligence, and I just can't not ask you, like, can you go a little bit deeper about Eisner?
Well, what do you want to know? I've read his biographies. I've got almost a full run of the Spirit Archives. If anybody wants to, if you ever find a Spirit Archives, I'll put out a list. If you ever find one, let me know, because I'm missing like 6. It's a 27 book set. Really, I don't know. I mean, he was great. I don't know more than my only, I guess, professional regret was he died before I got into comics, right? Like, I would have loved to have met him and picked his brain about just drawing in general. But I think just from my own knowledge, I think the best of the books that he wrote for the like Comics and Sequential Art, I think Comics and Sequential Art is a good book, but it is definitely it's like 102.
Yeah.
level comics. It's not like for the beginner comics, but there is Expressive Anatomy for comics and narrative. This is the best book that Will Eisner wrote, specifically looking at like what I do and how I do it. This book is great. It goes and talks about putting figures in contrapposto so they look like they're sitting in places and all of that information. It's all there, which is really great. I'd be much better at talking about Will Eisner if I had a question and I could answer it. But
yeah, I don't know. I've actually got I've got this one right here.
Yeah.
This one's really good too. I haven't read
Yes.
Expressive Anatomy yet, but
it's the third one,
Yeah.
and it is super informative. I have it tabbed in certain places. I don't even know what this is for anymore. But
cool, man. Yeah, I think I just meant I really like the insights that you had about the biographical stuff about his father and any insights about drawing or process or getting creative flow.
At the beginning of this talk, we talked about taking the mornings for yourself and having like I have a cup of coffee and read some comics. He always played tennis, and he would do that daily until he couldn't. But so he had a tennis partner that they would meet up every morning before he would work. So he had a moment to himself doing something that he liked doing before he actually got and sat down at the table. And I think that's really something that I've tried to take to heart. Oh, here's another thing. He drew at size. This is going to blow your minds because it blew my mind the second I found out about it. He all right. This is the artist edition for Contract with God.
Wow.
It's 2 volumes. It's a penciled book and an inked book, and it's because he penciled these pages this is like 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper that has a ruled out grid, and then he would ink on vellum. So all of the pages have been saved. So it's literally 2 books, and you can really see his process on it. I've been drawing this way for the past year and a half, and Rick asked how you make time for comics. I don't draw much. Like literally the amount of space that I'm drawing on, I draw on 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper, and then ink on 8.5 by 11 pieces of vellum for most of the stuff that I work on. I haven't drawn an 11 by 17 piece of art in 4 years, I think. So everything's been going smaller and smaller and smaller.
Have you seen his Twice Up Spirit Artist Edition?
I have. It's right over there.
Yeah, that thing is massive. I mean, I guess he learned the hard way.
I want to draw that's what's so crazy too, is like you see the Twice Up Spirit stuff, and then you see this the stuff that he was doing so later in life. And I think why his output later in life was so high is because he wasn't drawing super large. But I want to do a double up book just for my own self, just because you can fit a lot on a double up page, and you can really make some cool looking original art on it.
Bad man. Word. Cool. Any other final questions, and we will tune the radio off. Mitchell, what's up, dude? I thought you did.
So I got a question for Jamie. How did you get work on the last issue of Five Ghosts?
Yeah, that happened the first time I went to Heroes Con. I drew a shop exclusive variant cover for Solar Man of the Atom, which Frank Barberi was the writer of. I went over to his table and gave him a copy of the book. We had been talking on Twitter a little bit about it. And he was like, hey man, his girlfriend is Lauren Affey, who's the colorist for the book. He's like, they gave Lauren a table next to me. She doesn't want it. Do you want to just hang out with me all weekend? And I was like, yes, 100%. I'm not gonna. Five Ghosts was my favorite comic book coming out at the time. So getting to hang out with the writer of your favorite book all weekend was the best. Since then, Frank and I have become really close friends. His parents used to live in Sarasota, so when he would drive down, he'd always spend the night at my house, and I would spend the night at his house on his couch. So we kind of formed this friendship, and then the final issue of the Five Ghosts was coming around, and he was like, do you want to do a backup story? It was the first published interior work that I ever had was because I was just friends with Frank. Honestly, like that's why it happened. It's an okay book. It's an okay drawing, but it's
But you've grown over time.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been
7
years, and
years.
we constantly are like trying to figure out more books and pitches for us to write with. I really like working with Frank because for me, we've had so many talks about story structure and all of that stuff, that what he has written for me is just basically plot style, just Marvel plot style. He'll write a couple sentences for a page and then move on. And it's really fun to work with him on that.
Okay. Did you ever have any interactions with his artist Moneyham?
Yeah. I met him in New York for New York Comic Con. We had dinner with that whole team and Steve Orlando, who's also good friends with all of them. I'm not as close with Chris as I am with Frank, but
that kind of answers a question here that Jerome put in the chat about how do you solicit for art gigs? Does it find them, or do you go out and actively find it? But it seems kind of like it finds you, or things happen.
It does. That's also the book that I worked on until the beginning of this year was Quarter Killer, that came out through Comixology and the Comixology Originals line. That was written by Vita Ayala and Danny Lore. I met Vita. This is through Frank. I met Vita at Emerald City Comic Con 4 years ago, and Vita was watching Matt Rosenberg's table, and I was watching Frank's table when they had to go do a panel, and they were tabled right next to each other. And Vita and I just hit it off, and we started talking. And when I went back home, Quarter Killer was pitched to me as like, hey, would you like to draw this book? And I said yes. I did some sketches. 3 years later, it gets picked up by Comixology, right? Tons of pages drawn in between that. So it really is, I feel like I'm not the greatest at to answer this question, because I've fallen into all of my gigs. Kicking Ice was a gig that I did. Bart Sears was the art director for it, and Stephanie Phillips, who was the writer, is one of my best friends. So we just kind of fell into that, and Bart taught me how to draw. So he was just like, yes, Jamie can draw this book. I just kind of fell into a lot of it. Yeah.
What about you, Nick?
I feel like I'm coming at things from kind of a similar way, because recently I've been getting some more stuff. I think just because of doing one thing and then doing another thing, like doing the Pink Lemonade stuff. I've gotten into I did a short story for an anthology book that just came out a few weeks ago. They reached out to me just because I was at Heroes Con last year, and they were Charlotte locals, and they are around the comic scene there, and I just did had my first cover gig for Chapter House Books. They got a series coming out next year. I hadn't done any covers for anybody before this, but they reached out to me just because of the Pink Lemonade stuff and all that. So I think it is kind of like that in a sense, because you do this stuff, and then as a result, that stuff gets out there, and just try and make more connections that way. And I'm probably not the best person at just talking and reaching out to people and all that. So because I've like to have my head buried and drawn all the time, So I don't know. It's interesting for sure.
Nick Mitchell wants to know, do you feel like you would do a spin-off book about Rob Radical?
I would really like to, because that character was my very first attempt at making any comic books. I did something with one of my friends. It was called Radical Force Extreme. It was a really bad 90s parody book, but at the time I couldn't draw good enough to sell it as a parody. So it just looked kind of just like how I would normally draw, and it wasn't like hitting on any of those notes right. So I just I penciled and inked like 8 pages and then quit. But like at the same time, I think Ed Piskor said it once, where he's like, everybody doing their very first attempt at making a comic, you learn like so much just from that first page to doing a few more, and then by the time you get to that one, a few after that, you're just like, all these other ones just look terrible. And then I held off on that character for the longest time, but he finally got the right place in Pink Lemonade. But there is a lot more stories with him that I do have in mind, and potential solo stuff would be an option on the table for sure.
And I'm going to put a little pressure on Nick right now, because we do talk about the Baboon and Ron Radical having this secret cool mission that takes place in France that they can't talk about. And that's the book I really want to do next, is this Baboon, Ron Radical, super secret, super spies taking on the French mob or whatever they did. I don't even know.
Nice. All right, we got another question from Ryan. What's up, man?
So Jamie, you said you got picked up by Comixology. Now, is that just like approved to be part of their originals, or do they like act as a publisher? Is there a page rate? How does that Comixology original, that scenario that you were in, how does that work?
So my understanding is that has changed. That whole thing has changed recently. So I don't entirely know. When we got picked up to do the book, it's completely creator owned. They gave us a stipend for each issue that we took and broke up between the creators. Like an advance on monies made from the app eventually, is that? Yeah, I think that's how it worked. And technically Vita is the publisher. So it was Vita's job to put the team together. I don't think Comixology knew at the time that we had all been talking about the book for 3 years, and there was no. What happened was Vita got to write the X-Men. Vita got hired to write the X-Men. So Comixology reached out to Vita and said, "Hey, would you like to pitch a creator-owned book at Comixology? We can give you X amount of money." Vita said, "Yes, here's the pitch," and they accepted it, and then it just went from there. And so they're not doing that anymore. You said it's changed recently. I think they are doing it. I just don't know the process of if the deal's as good as it was. We had a really good deal.
Right. I always just assumed it was like you could put your book out there and then, you know, you got quarterly payments and, you know, if it made money, it made money. And if it didn't, it didn't.
We were paid per issue to produce it. And it was it was an advance, right? We were paid up front for 5 issues to do whatever with like no interference. We could have done whatever we wanted to do. We did do whatever we wanted to do. We made the book that we wanted to make, with and got paid for it, which was crazy. We are looking at that now. I know the new stuff. I think part of their contract is they have some printing rights, but I'm not sure what our contract is. I'm not, a lot of those little details I'm not 100% on. I know just submitting to Comixology Original and Comixology and putting your book up on the site works more like what you were saying. You get paid quarterly off of your sales, and they don't own anything on that. And I think you can just, Comixology Submit is what it's called. You just like upload your PDF, whatever, and it goes on to that. The difference is when we were being paid and working for Comixology to make something. So there were very specific limitations that we had to abide by. There couldn't be characters jumping out of panel borders. There couldn't have, everything had to have a clear gutter.
All the things that annoy them about other books. They're like, we don't want to be annoyed. Just keep it in the gutter.
Exactly. So everything had to be in a gutter. That's why in Quarter Killer there's a lot of 8-9 panel pages, because it's just like gutter. And I would do stuff.
And Jason, Jason, the cartoonist Jason.
Yeah.
I killed Adolf Killer. I read his stuff through Comixology, and he has that strict, just, I don't even know how many 8 panels on a page, but man, just like every box being that same size flowed so well on Comixology, just panel to panel and reveals, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and so it was building something around that, their limitations, and then also like, how can I break that? So I did a lot of stuff where it would just be a couple figures standing, and it would just be like a huge white background, or it just like because I also colored Quarter Killer, so it'd just be like a red accent color in the background, just a circle, and 2 figures talking, but give it like there was just no panel border, and they were completely okay with it because it was enough space and edging around for them to cut around and be like, this is a panel, go to the next panel.
And that was for their like animation kind of thing that they do, the like
that was for the panel to panel reading, whatever it's called.
Whatever it's called. Yeah.
It's kind of a fun way to read comics if done correctly.
That Jason, like, it worked perfectly for him because his boxes just never changed. And so, a lot of talking heads, and it was just, I was just like, bam, bam, going through them. Fife, like reading something like Fife, like he has no panels. And so his chick got like, they had to get creative with it and figure it out. And so his stuff still did have a cool flow to it on there, but it was definitely worked really well with the rigid.
The other thing you also had to think about a lot was, and what Ryan Ferrer did so great. Ryan Ferrer was the letterer for the book. He would place word balloons. If it was a larger panel, he would place it so you would still, like, if it was if it was a splash, you would get a character head talking down to another piece of information with another balloon, down to another. He would arrange the panels to where Comixology couldn't mess up the page flow. Because he's a genius, and he's a genius letterer. And so there would be things where he'd be like, all right, this is a long panel that won't fit this way. I would go in and be like, there's a car over here, it's running away, there's the lettering would go right here. So it would be car, smoke, boom, you know, and that was how they broke it up on the viewfinder. And Ryan, knew what they were going to do, put the further away than you would think it was going to go in a traditional comic. There was just so many moving parts that it would take me. I had 5 weeks to do an issue, and I would spend a week thumbnailing the book to make sure it worked. 2 weeks penciling and inking, and then 2 weeks coloring the book. Wow. So it was, but that first week was all, I didn't even draw. I was drawing, but it was just like making sure pacing worked well for what Comixology needed it to work as.
That's awesome, man. That's quite a pace, man. I'm not sure I could keep up a pace like that.
Towards the end, it was miserable.
I bet.
You get on a good. You're excited when you go and you're starting, but then by issue 4, you're like, how do I make this more interesting?
Awesome, man. Well, I just want to. Go ahead, Ryan.
I just want to show and tell this this Spirit tabloid. Have you picked up any of these? I just found this in that same shop I was telling you about.
No.
It's like 11 by 17 ish sized, but it's just these, I don't know, tabloid color Spirit stories, and they're just one, blank page.
Wow.
So they're one-sided.
That's awesome.
It says 1973, so it's even later. Spirit, but
right.
Just one of the random things I find in the attic at my local comic shop. I'm like, I'm taking it.
I've never seen that. That's awesome.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Well, I just want to thank everyone for coming. It's been a great interview. It's been great chatting with everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Thanks for coming. Nick and Jamie, thanks so much for all your insight. And I can't wait to get to the book. I can't wait to read the book, man.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Can't wait for people to see it.
What'd you say, Nick?
Can't wait for people to see it. It's going to be a good time.
And so the Kickstarter's begun now. I'm sure we've all backed it. When is it ending?
30 days from when it started. So the 7th, I think. August 7th of next month.
Nice. And you guys have already got it fully funded. But if we keep going, we can get some new stretch goals, get some sketches. And it's going to be an awesome book. I'm super excited for it. Thanks for coming out. Sorry for the interruption there in the middle. That was interesting. Yeah, exactly. You're right. It's edited out. Nobody saw that. Thank you guys so much. Cosmic Lion Radio, another week. Thank you so much.